Syrian demonstrators rallied Monday in the city of Al-Salam to protest against the recent Israeli incursions throughout the south of the country. Heavy fighting continues in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, while M23 rebels claim early Monday to have captured the regional capital city of Goma. And Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum reveals that the United States deported 4,094 people last week, most of them Mexican. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Syria, citizens demonstrated against the Israeli aggression that took place in the province of Quneitra, bordered in the occupied Golan Heights. The demonstrators gathered in front of the headquarters of the police command in the city of Al-Salam to condemn the incursions carried out by the Israeli occupation troops throughout the south of the country. In addition, the protesters pointed out that these actions constitute a threat to Syria's sovereignty and a violation of international law. Meanwhile, the permanent representative of Syria to the United Nations, Qusay al-Dahak, recently called on the United Nations Security Council to take immediate action to force Israel to withdraw from the occupied territories. Following the opening of the Netzarim corridor by the Israeli regime, tens of thousands of Palestinians returned to the destroyed northern part of Gaza Strip after more than 15 months of being forced to flee their homes.
After more than a year living in refugee camps, in tents, schools, and in overcrowded and unhealthy living conditions, the Gazans are anxious to return to their homes, knowing that these have been destroyed.
We thank God for our return. We are heartbroken because we have nothing left to cry about. They have drained our energy. I am tying my daughter to my hand so she won't be lost from me. Isn't this an injustice? I have lost 5 houses. We lost all our money.
The most optimistic ones are grateful for the opportunity to come back and start from scratch, even after having lost everything.
We have been waiting for this day for a year and for months. When I arrive in Gaza, I will prostrate myself in gratitude to God. I walk and I don't feel tired with joy as if I am. Flying with joy we will return even over the rubble of our house. Our feeling is indescribable.
From the early morning, displaced people have been returning on foot across Al-Rashid, a street of at least 7 kilometers that goes from the south to the north of the Strip, and which has witnessed dozens of massacres during 470 days of genocide.
As you can see, all the displaced people from the Gaza Strip and the north, they walk on foot because they love their land and their homeland. They walk on foot. We love our land and we love our homes.
Amidst immense joy, tears, and prayers for the return to their homeland and the long-awaited reunion of family members who managed to survive, the Gazans hope to overcome the horror they have gone through and rebuild their lives.
Heavy fighting continues in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, while M23 rebels claim early Monday to have captured the regional capital city of Goma. Their claim comes minutes before arriving at a 48-hour deadline imposed by the group for the Congolese army to surrender their weapons. The rebels urge residents of Goma to remain calm and for members of the Congolese military to assemble the central stadium. The M23 rebels' offensive in the heart of the mineral-rich region threatens to dramatically worsen one of Africa's longest wars and further displaced civilians. The United Nations says over a third of the population of North Kivu province, where Goma is located, are currently displaced, and the capture of the city will likely exacerbate the situation. The M23 offensive in the Democratic Republic of Congo has sparked a wave of international outrage, while the United Nations Security Council strongly condemned the presence of foreign forces in the eastern part of the country. Chinese permanent representative to the international body Fu Kong called the March 23 movement to strictly adhere to the ceasefire agreement and to return to the path of a political solution. On the other hand, French President Emmanuel Macron also condemned the M23 offensives and called for an immediate return to the ceasefire and the protection of civilian populations. On its part, the East African community called for an extraordinary summit to address the crisis by bringing together regional leaders, including the presidents of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, and of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. In this context, the United Nations Humanitarian Coordination for the Democratic Republic of Congo, Bruno Le Marquis, and the Under-Secretary General for Peace Operations of the international body, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, expressed their concern about the situation in the African nation.
What is unfolding in Goma is coming on top of what is already one of the most protracted, complex, serious humanitarian crises on Earth, with close to 6.5 million displaced people in the country, including close to 3 million displaced people in North Kivu.
Situation, and really at this critical juncture, the onus now is really about bringing about an immediate cessation of hostilities. With the fate of millions of civilians living in Goma being the priority, along, of course, with the safety and security of our UN.
And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum informed Monday that last week the United States deported 4,094 people, most of them Mexican. Sheinbaum revealed that her government has been carrying out reconciliations and reaching agreements with the U.S. authorities, and stressed that mechanisms to deal with deportations have existed with Washington for a long time. The Mexican president highlighted that when the United States informed that there would be massive deportations, her administration set up assistance centers in the main border cities in order to deal with migrants. In all meetings with the U.S. officials, Mexico has called the United States government to respect human rights. On the other hand, the Mexican head of state praised the agreement reached between Washington and Colombia on the illegal migrants in the North American nation.
They are calling a CELAC meeting, and we think it was good that in the end the governments of Colombia and United States reached an agreement. Neither tariffs nor other mechanisms are good for anyone, so finally what I understand is that last night an agreement was reached between both governments, and that is good because finally dialogue must prevail. Respect and dialogue, which is what we have sought in our relationship with the United States. Respect for our principles of defending our sovereignty, of defending Mexicans abroad, of guaranteeing human rights for those who arrive in our country, and now, especially with this Mexico Embraces You program. We always welcome Mexicans with open arms, wherever they want to come to Mexico for reasons of deportation.
Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro announced Monday the implementation of the so-called Second Transformation Project and called the Venezuelans to build the future of the country with their own hands. Maduro assured there cannot be good homes if there are not sustainable communities at peace, and informed that in the upcoming 6 years the government will build another 3 million houses as part of the project called New Neighborhoods, Colorful Neighborhoods. The second T is part of the 7 transformations plan proposed by President Nicolás Maduro and is activated a few days before the celebration of the National Popular Consultation to be held on February 2nd. More than 5,000 communes and communal circuits will propose and vote for community projects, which will be financed by the national government.
Y hoy, 27, como dicen, no hay 27 malos, 27 de enero, activo la T número 2, la transformación para la construcción de ciudades humanas del buen vivir.
And today 27th, as they say there is no bad 27th, today January 27th I am activating T number 2, the transformation for the construction of human cities of good living. Indeed, it would take several days to implement. I wanted to come to the reactivation of this project because I want to send a very powerful message. This is with you, Ramirez, as Minister of Public Works, and with all the entities, public and private companies and the people's power, all in perfect synchronization. Yesterday we experienced a natural phenomenon that occurs every 400 years. All planets lined up in the sky and all looked at Venezuela. And they said, Venezuela, all is okay. And we have to align all productive forces in the country. This is now with you, Mr. Minister Alex Saab. You have to guarantee me the activation of all investment contracts to produce more cement, more steel bars, more blocks and more construction material, because we have to activate all the projects that were forced to stop due to the blockade, to the criminal sanctions and the economic war, and we have to finish each one of those projects benefiting the people, those dealing with roads, transportation, public services. That's why I wanted to be here, to activate those projects.
Y la guerra económica fueron obligadas a detenerse y culminar una por una de todas las obras a favor del pueblo que tengan que ver con la vialidad, transporte, servicios públicos. Por eso quise venir a reactivar esta obra.
On the other hand, the Venezuelan president also referred to the implementation of a new ×10 project, a new stage of a system of territorial government characterized by a new system of democratic communal government with the people.
Nosotros entonces, ratifico, debemos instalar en 90 días máximo 3,330.
I ratify that we must set up in 90 days, tops, 3,334 rooms of popular self-government in all the territories and communal circuits of the country, and that we must receive the new 1×10. The new 1×10 will be territorial, it will be communal. So that the proposals, the needs, and the solutions come from the territory, so that people and national government come together for the healing and constructive action for progress, as it should be, and that is precisely what I announced on January 10th, a new stage of a system of territorial government, a new system of democratic communal government with the people.
De un nuevo sistema de gobierno territorial, un nuevo sistema de gobierno democrático comunal.
The Brazilian Ministry of Health reported that so far this year the country has registered 15 deaths due to dengue fever and more than 101,000 possible cases of the disease. In the state of Sao Paulo, 33 municipalities are under an emergency alert due to the proliferation of the mosquitoes that transmit the disease. In addition, the incidence of cases has increased in other states such as Rio de Janeiro, Espírito Santo, Tocantins, Mato Grosso do Sul and Paraná. To combat this crisis, the government of Sao Paulo implemented an emergency operations center aimed at mitigating the outbreak. Despite the situation, vaccination against dengue fever is still limited, and according to data from the Brazilian Immunization Society, of the 6.3 million doses distributed in the country, only 3.2 million have been applied. We have a second trial break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Fun a short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Storm Hermine caused severe flooding in northwest France, mainly in the region of Brittany, forcing the evacuation of hundreds of people. The storm's heavy rains, accompanied by wind gusts of up to 120 kilometers per hour and strong waves, have left many homes without power and roads cut off. In this regard, more than 240 liters per square meter have accumulated in the northwest of France, 80% more than usual, which has forced the evacuation of residents around the area. The north of the country has been particularly affected by Armenia, with flights and trains cancelled and trees falling on the roads. On the other hand, the storm has also struck the city of Rennes, west of Paris, and heavy rains have left the region flooded after the Tige and Valien rivers overflowed. In France, citizens demonstrated on Monday in front of the headquarters of the Sanitation Authorities SIBA in the town of Archacon against the project to discharge wastewater into nature in the event of an overflow due to heavy rainfall. About 200 people protested in front of the headquarters of the Syndicat Intercommunal de Bassins d'Arcachon, SIBA, a local organization which is mainly responsible for wastewater treatment in the territory. The institution presented a project proposing to discharge sewage water into the Bay of Arcachon in the event of a weather catastrophe. In this regard, oyster unions, representatives of environmental associations, and local citizens protested against this project while holding banners and chanting slogans, generating a significant turmoil.
The state has not been able to force SIBA to meet its obligations. What's more, the government has gone even further. Not only has it failed, it has been unable to enforce compliance with the environmental code and other applicable legislation. But secondly, and this is where we are surprised, since the 15th of January it has authorized SIBA to overflow the safety basins by up to 5% of the volume of wastewater, and the total volume of wastewater.
5% du volume des eaux usées, du volume complet des eaux usées.
There are also viral problems, as we had last year and in 2021 with the norovirus, a gastroenteritis virus, where the health consequences were much more serious. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. You have to realize that wastewater contains all the crap you can throw at it, and the impact on the marine environment is catastrophic for us.
The Russian government stated that any Western force sent to Ukraine without Moscow's approval would become a legitimate military target. Russian authorities denounced that the proposal for the creation of so-called peacekeeping forces in Ukraine is aimed at preventing Kyiv from suffering further defeats while maintaining its position of not negotiating with Moscow. The Russian statements come in response to a proposal made by the European Union Military Committee that a ceasefire in Ukraine should be imposed with the intervention of so-called peacekeepers. The statements are in line with calls by the Kyiv government to deploy at least 200,000 European troops to force Moscow to halt its special operation to demilitarize Ukraine. In southern Poland, a tremor in a coal mine in the city of Radlin killed one worker and injured 11 others. This Monday, Polish mining group PGG reported a tremor at a depth of 800 meters. According to the mining company's report, 29 employees were in the area of the incident. After rescue works, the 11 injured were taken to the nearest hospital. In this context, the head of the Emergency Medical Services of Katowice said that at least 4 of the injured are in serious condition. Authorities added that work continues to determine the total damage and secure the area. And we have come to the end of this news brief, but remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.